Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Repeat Ron, and today we're going to be doing another Killing Floor 2 skills tier list. We're going to be going over the support. I know in the last video when we were talking about Commando I said medic, but I forgot the support is before medic. So we're going to be doing support first, then medic, and so on down the line. So let's start out with the level 5 perks. Our first level 5 is high capacity magazines, and this one did recently get buffed, at least in the last update. So this gives you a 75% larger magazine. It used to give 50%, and that 75% does feel really good on pretty much any of the clip-fed shotguns. It feels pretty good on the tube-fed shotguns too. This does not affect the double barrel, the doomstick, or the buckshots, either the single or the double buckshots. It will affect all the other shotguns. And it does affect the clip-fed shotguns the best, I would say, because the reload speed for them does not matter as much as a higher magazine. So you can go from a 20-round magazine with the AA-12 to a 35-round magazine, which feels really good. You can go from I believe it's a 16-round magazine with the HZ-12 all the way up to a 28-round magazine, which also feels very good. The M4 feels quite good with this too. The M4 can actually make good use of either of these. Some of the other shotguns, like the starting pump shotgun, the trench gun, the slower reloading tube-fed shotguns, I still don't think you get as much value out of this, just because it'll take longer for you to reload them. You can certainly get away with it with them. It's always going to be a good choice for them. And this one's a pretty solid option right now. I'd probably put this one into B tier. And then we have Tactical Reload. Tactical Reload just makes it so that you reload all of your shotguns by, I think, 20 or 30% faster than you normally would, which this does help. I always take this if I'm going to take the double barrel, the boomstick, the buckshots, because they just don't get a benefit from the high capacity magazines unless I'm just taking one buckshot to throw it on there for whatever reason. Then I might still run the high capacity magazines, but this one's always going to be good. There's no real downside to it, so I would probably also put it in B tier along with the high capacity magazines. All right, moving on to our level 10 perks, we have Fortitude. Fortitude isn't a very straightforward perk. This just gives you 50% more HP. That's it. That is really good. More HP makes you tankier, which is great because support isn't necessarily one of the most tanky classes. They have average speed, average armor, everything like that, so they can die just as easily as anybody else. With the exception of almost all of their weapons have a really high stumble chance, and with certain weapons like the Doomstick and the Double Barrel, you can send yourself flying away and give yourself some extra mobility. So you do have that going for you, but that's your weapons, not necessarily the class itself. I would put Fortitude probably up into A tier. It's really good. I take it a lot, especially on Hell on Earth. I find it really useful then, even though it's on the same tier as Salvo. And let's talk about Salvo. Salvo gives you 30% more damage with all of your weapons. This is also really strong because every shotgun hits really hard. So having more damage on top of that is always going to be a good thing. You can make the Doomstick completely destroy just about anything with this. You can make the Double Barrel destroy pretty much anything with this. You can really make just about any shotgun destroy anything with this because it just gives you that much more of a bonus. That being said, I wouldn't say that it's like a necessity though for support, because I honestly run Fortitude more often on support, even on Hell on Earth. Even in 6-man than I do Salvo, although Salvo is also really strong. So I'd put Salvo probably above Fortitude in A tier. Moving on to the level 15 perks, our first one is Armor Piercing Shot. This greatly increases your penetrating power with your perk weapons. Honestly, you already have enough penetrative power with your passive perk that you don't really need this one. It can be useful in very specific maps, but this is probably one of support's weakest skills and one that I pretty much never take. The only time that it's really useful is when there's long hallways where there can be a lot of Zeds that group up, because you can just punch through all of them with any of your shotguns. That's the only time I take it. So if I'm playing on like Containment Station or some custom maps and stuff, there's not really a whole lot of regular maps that have really long hallways that let you take full advantage of this. So this one is probably one of their weaker ones. That being said, on maps like Containment Station, it's really strong, and for that it would probably be like A or S tier, just because you can get so much value out of it. On every other map it's like C tier, because you can potentially get some value out of it, punching through a line of crawlers or punching through a line of clots or something like that. just so that you're not using up extra ammo. Tight Choke is probably one of my favorite perks that support has because it decreases the spread of your shots by 50%. So it just makes you have a tighter grouping. And with the range in this game, shotguns can shoot at literally any range, the same as every other weapon can. If you have a tighter spread, it just makes it that much easier for you to hit targets, and it makes weapons like the AA-12 or the M4 or the medic shotgun really work at any range. They work pretty much the same as any sort of assault rifle with maybe a little bit more delay at the shots. This one does make it so you can hit long range shots with your weapons. It also makes some of your weapons feel way more consistent, like the double barrel feels just kind of okay. It still feels super powerful, but it's very close range without this. With this on, medium range is very easy to obtain. Same with the Doomstick. I would put this one high up into A tier because it is really useful. In our level 20 perks, we have Resupply Pack. This makes it so your teammates get 30% more ammo, 20% more armor when they interact with you at the start of the wave. And you can also carry 20% more ammunition for all of your weapons. That can be really useful because unless you have 2 supports, you're likely going to be running out of bullets early on for support because you just are giving more value to your teammates so that they can do more and you're not getting a whole lot of benefit from it. But this gives your teammates even more value, it gives you value, and it gives them armor. It's all around a really solid perk, and it's one that I always run on support, especially in multiplayer. In solo, it depends. Sometimes I switch it around. Sometimes I just keep it because I like the extra ammo. But in multiplayer, really solid perk, and I would also put this one probably up into A tier. And next we have Concussion Rounds. This increases your stumble power with all of your weapons by 150%. Now, this one I find kind of unnecessary. It feels almost like overkill for the shotguns because the shotguns already have really high stumble power. You can already knock around enemies with almost any of the shotguns without too much issue, even more so with certain weapons like the double barrel, the Doomstick, the trench gun, all of which have either incredibly high stumble power to where you can fire the multiple barrels, or in the case of the trench gun, you have the stumble power plus the fire that can also stumble people. So I'm probably put this one in C tier too. And then we move up to the level 25 perks for supports. Our first one is Penetrator. This just makes it so during Z time, your perk weapons will penetrate through pretty much everything that they hit. Again, this can be really good in like indoor maps like Containment Station, where you can just punch through an entire line of Zeds, doesn't matter what's in there, robots, clots, skrakes, whatever it might be, just rip through all of them. And that will give you more damage that way, but a lot of maps, you don't really need that. Your regular passive shotgun penetration will be enough to deal with lots of crowds with no problem. So this only helps on a few specific maps and in specific situations. So I don't find it super useful. I don't really take the Penetrator all that much. And I'd probably put it into C tier. It's still useful. I'd probably put it higher than that. Probably the high end of C tier. And then our last perk is Barrage. This makes it so during Z time, you can fire your perk weapons in real time. This is pretty much always the perk that I go with for our level 25. But even so, this one also doesn't feel entirely necessary. It can be really useful. You can delete flesh pounds or skrakes very quickly, because if you have this with an AA-12 or even with a Doomstick or with an M4 or something like that, you can kill enemies very quickly, very easily. It can sort of have I wouldn't really even say issues. It's just if you are almost out of a gun, you haven't reloaded either your main gun or your secondary gun, or maybe even your third gun since you're playing support, and Z time triggers, you're not going to get that much value out of it. You'll be able to shoot whatever shots you have out, and then you have to reload it, and you don't reload in real time. You can only shoot in real time. So you'll likely just be able to empty out one magazine from a weapon and then reload it, which for something like the AA-12, the HZ-12, or the M4, that's pretty good. That'll pretty much guarantee something big or a bunch of small things dying. But you don't get as much value out of this as other Z-time perks. And I would say it's not really one of the strongest Z-time perks, but for support, I'd still probably put it somewhere into the middle of A tier. It's still pretty good. So thank you everybody for watching this video. I really do appreciate that. If you're new here and you enjoyed this, be sure that you get subscribed. That way you get notifications whenever I post these. Special thanks to all of the members and the patrons of the channel. These are the supporters. If you'd like to be a part of that, there are links down in the description. If you'd like to see my other Killing Floor related tier lists, be sure to click over here on this video. That'll take you to a full playlist of them. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you next time. Till then, stay cool, and bye.